What do you see as needed to improve the lives of women and children?
Well, women are both victims of the situation, but increasingly, I'm happy to say, agents for change. And that's one of the things that I enjoy very much. We, in Realising Rights, my current organisation, have a lot of focus on Africa. And just to give you an example, I was in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, in January, just before the annual main meeting of the African Union, heads of state and government, presidents and prime ministers from African countries. And the women had organised 2 pre-conference meetings, one focusing on the African Union and what it can do for women, and the other focusing more broadly.
Right.
But in both, I was just delighted to see women of different ages really coming together, young African women, middle-aged African women, and elders like myself. And we both were committed and serious, but also enjoyed an evening of song and dance together, which is also the African way. But they were full of the detail of what needs to happen in order to change things.
And President Robinson, what do you think inspired those women to become change agents?
To some extent, the strength of women in their own families and their communities, and then realizing that they needed to move out from that. The internet is a great help. Many of these women now are on the internet, have mobile phones, are connected, and that connection is important. But also a realization that if you can organize into networking, there's strength in numbers. And I think women worldwide have led the way in the value of networking together. It's happening in other regions of the world as well. In the Arab region, I've just come recently from Qatar, and there's a lot of concern about the Muslim world generally, about women being held back by very conservative Islamic religion. But equally, in many of the Arab states, women are in fact, for the first time, becoming members of the government, becoming professors in the universities, getting into business, etc. So it's a mixed picture, but still overall the situation of women is not at all satisfactory. We still need a strong women's movement, women's solidarity.
Yeah. So you've identified 2 places that I think of a lot when we think of women needing more empowerment or needing to have more rights, equal rights. What do you see as sort of the biggest area in the world where women really are sort of down the farthest? Like, where is the most change needed in the world?
That's kind of a difficult question. It's like the question of what's the worst country for human rights, which I used to be asked as well, because it's all relative. I mean, you could ask why here in the United States there are not more women in Congress, why women are not more women governors, not more women in the Fortune 500, though there are some, and they're very remarkable. So I prefer to take every country in its context and say what more can be done to make further progress. And it is important that we have landmark opportunities. We're marking this year the 15th anniversary of the great conference on women that was held in China in 1995. And at that conference, a very simple statement was made, but it was very profound for women worldwide, which is that women's rights are human rights. And that this is part of what men and women should be seeking to advance. And I think many of us feel quite strongly that it's important that men understand that advancing girls' education is good for the whole country. It's good for development. That having women taking part in all decision making is good for the broader society. And thankfully there are very strong men who are now strong advocates of women's empowerment and participation, because that's important for the especially in countries where power rests with men, that more and more men are taking that view.